Hello, everybody. It is great to be here one more time today. And my name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO and host of GSD Presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. I'm a Silicon Valley entrepreneur with 17 startups under my belt and several unicorns. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for 1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai. We believe that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world and opportunities are not. And with that, I have an incredible guest today, my friend Guillaume Kloof. Guillaume is a serial entrepreneur. He's a accelerator. He's got tremendous experience from working at the Tulip Inn in Amsterdam to all the way being the managing director of Valley Date Tech. And with that, I'd like to bring my friend Guillaume in. Hi, Guillaume. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Always a pleasure talking to you.
So I got a question for you. Now, what the hell? So you've gone from Rosandi as a storage worker, right? Where
hmm
all the way to where we are today with Valley. How did you get into this Valley Date Tech? How did you decide to? I know in 2011 you've been working a long time, but what was the
Yeah.
transition as you've gone? You've been CTO of companies. You've been a mentor. You've been at Farm Today, CTO, Pi Data, VP of International Operations. What was it like? I mean, how do you make that journey? How do you go from the Tulip Inn all the way to where you are today?
Well, the thing is, I was actually born in Amsterdam, but was raised in Suriname in South America. And when I came back to Amsterdam to study, it was like,
Wait
okay,
a minute. You
what
were
am I
raised in
going to do
Suriname.
next?
What was it like growing up in Suriname, Gil?
Very sunny.
Sunny, yeah. Did you like that?
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. And it was great because and my parents actually still live there. And it was good for me to be raised in that more tropical environment. Um, and then coming to Amsterdam, it was more a matter of okay, in Suriname, in actually the Caribbean, it's always a blend that is a bit more closer to the US. Because, for example, like we got a lot of movies that came out in the US immediately came to the Caribbean and said, "Hey, this new
Wait a
Die
minute.
Hard
Is that
movie
a
came
good
out."
thing or not, Gil? Is
I loved it. I loved it because like when I just came to the Netherlands and a movie that I had already seen back home came out here, new in the movie theater, blah blah blah. I'm like, I done seen this movie already. It's yeah. So for me, it was a very cool perspective to have to because whenever it's a new topic comes out here in the Netherlands, I get to see it from a almost a third eye view, where it's like, hey, we this is how Americans look at it. This is how Europeans look at it. Okay, this is how I look at it. So it's I love having being in that position and with regards to the many different jobs, it was more a matter of I wanted to study information science, really get into tech. But at the same time, I know I have to develop my social skills as well. So that's how I was started working at the hotel. So you get to speak to a lot of people with a lot of different emotions. Sometimes somebody's happy with their room, sometimes they're not, and you got to manage those emotions.
how is that, Gil, when you have those kind of people coming in? Like, how is it to deal with them? And what percentage of them are negative and what percentage of them are positive or upset with it? And what percent are positive?
Well, it's always a mixed bag, and it also very much depends on you, and that's where I learned a whole lot that could prepare me for entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship you never really know what's coming down the pipe, so but you always have to be you, and you always do need to know your stuff. And same goes for dealing with hotel guests and anything hospitality, really.
Wow, it's interesting. So you had to develop your customer skills.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, because as a developer, you're more looking at a black screen, and it's like numbers and commas and colons. Is like, yeah, blah 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 boom, and then somebody starts to talk to you, and it's almost like you have to flip a switch as to, oh, I'm human too. Yes. So yeah.
Oh, I'm human too. That sounds like some kind of new AI program.
Yes, yeah, very much so.
So so you've gone down through. You do a lot of helping these early stage companies. You help them with a product market fit. Yeah, a lot of companies do fail. A lot of times, it's they don't have product market fit. They don't have sales and marketing expertise. They don't know how to go out to investors. You got a whole bag of reasons why, and you do a great job of helping them. What's it like? So, if you look at Amsterdam and the startup scene, what's it like over there?
Well, over here, I have to say the government is trying their absolute best to also try to support a lot of entrepreneurship movements and things of that nature. Um, and but at the same time, there are some structural institutional limitations, and that's where, from my end, as a international online accelerator, it gives me perspective as to, okay, this is possible in the Netherlands, this is not possible in the Netherlands. But I must say I'm very optimistic, because also, looking at the diversity movement, people's eyes are being opened up as to, hey, we need to really step up our game when it comes to diversity.
Yeah, but I
So
mean, it's
I'm very
interesting, but
optimistic.
you still don't feel, you don't see enough. And I've heard, two sides of it, right? So my friends from the Urban League and NAACP say there aren't just enough role models because people talk about sports, right? It's like, you go into an urban high school and you say, who do you want to be? And they name a basketball player or a football player. 80%
Yeah,
of them. That's directly from one of my friends in the community, uh, well known. But then you go into a white high school, and it's primarily white, and they're saying, they want to be a doctor, they want to be an
yeah,
engineer. And so it's like,
yeah.
and we talk about how to shift that paradigm because we do have to democratize opportunity. It's like, if we don't use the resources we have in the right way, nothing good's going to happen.
Yeah, but I think also at the same time, when it comes to that particular topic, there's also a cultural factor, because and that's why, just to go a bit mainstream, that's why that movie Black Panther was so huge, because minorities could actually relate to somebody they saw on the screen. It was like, oh, so this could actually also be me. And the same goes for minorities seeing other business role models,
Mhm.
where, especially in Europe, there's not as many colored folks when it comes to higher echelons of business. And even if I look at myself when I go to a business function, you can literally just count anybody with a bit of color in the room. So that also plays a major role, where
Well, and then
especially
you
when
got
things
somebody
have to
like
do with
me whose grandmother came from Africa and has like I'm about as light as chocolate as you're gonna get. Oh yeah? What do you mean? I'm
yeah,
like, dude, man, it ain't about what you got on your skin, it's about where you came from, right? It's like, come on,
yeah, yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
no, so that is a something big as well, where especially youngsters, they see the entertainers and athletes. It's like, oh, so that's what I need to be. where there's actually a lot more that they can be. And for me, I'm always grateful to talking to you because you're always equal to everybody. So this is always great.
And same with you too. I mean, the deal is that's how we make the world a better place, right? We go out and we help female entrepreneurs, people of color. It doesn't matter. It's a matter of where you're going. It's not where you've come from.
Definitely, and that's why on my end as well, March 8th is International Women's Day, and leading up to that, we will be releasing a new feature in the Validate Tech mobile app for female founders to find a whole bunch of resources to really dig into. And of course, GSD Venture Studios is also part of that.
No, that's great. No, you're doing a fantastic job. So, what's the state of investing now? Because I know we had this discussion some time ago. What's happening? Excuse me, right now in the region in Europe. How is it with? How do we look at institutional investors, VC? Is it up or down? Up or down?
I would say it's quite similar to the U.S. market where the funds are stocking up on dry powder, where they're raising right now and very hesitant to pull the trigger on new investments, even more hesitant than before the whole freeze. I was speaking to a founder a couple of weeks ago where they were very frustrated in telling me, hey, we were able to raise 900K within a couple of practically within a month or so, and now we're trying to raise 500K, and we can't get that 500K to save our life. So it was very frustrating, and it is very frustrating for founders nowadays to raise the capital. I would say that with this, you can say freeze, there are other opportunities that are starting to come up. So, for example, WeFunder Europe just got approved to actually operate in Europe. You also have a couple of debt financing platforms that are now starting to rise up due to the slowdown in the VC area. So there is movement, but not as we're accustomed to.
Yeah, no, I agree. And how does it look? I mean, what's happening with the startups right now? So if you have this dry powder that's accumulating and they're not dispersing funds, what are the startups doing?
For the startups, it starts with frustration, and then it becomes more a matter of them figuring out that they really need to get shit done. so, so that's where our job, actually, our calling comes into play, where it's like, okay, Gary, what do I need to do? Because I am not moving forward. I am not moving backwards. There's something wrong somewhere. That's the one thing that's consistent across the board, where startups really need to continue to focus even more on getting traction, as much traction as possible.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, traction's king right now, or queen. It's really important because it means you have product market fit, doesn't it? It means that you have a viable model that's going to go forward and not just an idea. So the more traction, of course, and then it reduces risk. So if you got the traction and you're growing 20% a month, it shows that you got something pretty special, and it's not a tough bet to bet on, right? Then what? So what's happening with the
Exactly.
later stage investments? So Series B, Series C. What are you seeing with those? What's happening in Europe now with those later stage companies?
With those, they're doing okay with them. There's been a, yeah, I can't say an actual dip, but it's pretty consistent. Yeah, it's like maybe a little bit up and down, but they've been doing relatively relatively okay. When it comes to the early stage ones, um, and when I say early stage, I would have to divide them into two groups. On the one end, I would need to say the pre-seed startups, they can still get some funding because pre-seed VCs, they weren't expecting to get any returns anytime soon anyway. So
Yeah.
for them, it's not necessarily business as usual, but it's still not as gloomy as for let's say the seed stage or Series A, because for them it's definitely like hold that thought. Show me even more stuff than you would normally show. Yeah, so with them it does fluctuate a bit, and when you get to the later stage startups that are raising 10, 20 mil. For them, it's yeah, relatively consistent. Yeah.
Interesting. What kind of companies? What? So let me start off with this. What about ChatGPT? Is there a lot of talk about it in Europe right now?
There is a lot of talk about it, but more, still more in the manner of how can I really use it? so so it's people are still trying to find their footing. Um, and I must say, when it comes to ChatGPT, youngsters are, as you can imagine, adopting it very quickly. But the people that are in charge of some bigger organizations, with them it's still like a bit scary. Like I don't know exactly what to do with it. So for example, government is checking it out as to, okay, will we allow our employees to use it, or would it be dangerous? Is there a risk involved? When it comes to entrepreneurs, I haven't really seen too much of a buzz for entrepreneurs implementing it in their business, but I have seen a uptick in usage for marketing and sales purposes. So trying to
Interesting.
speed up processes and things like that. So that's what I've been seeing so far.
Wow, interesting. So marketing and salesperson purposes. So the companies, the companies that aren't getting the funding because there's too much dry powder and sidelines, they're trying to get more traction. What are they doing? Like, they're getting traction. They're going to non-dilutive methods. What are they doing?
Yeah, it's right now it's more or less trying to see, okay, we need to get more traction. How do we do it? Some startups already have expertise in house where they can, you can say, they know if they should pivot or what they should add to their strategy or something like that. But others, they're still throwing things at the wall, hoping that something sticks.
Throwing things
So
at the wall.
yeah, they're just throwing as like, okay,
Well, I mean, but
hopefully
that
something
doesn't work
sticks.
because you got to have like a laser view of this,
Nope,
right? You got to go out. If you take that
exactly.
just throwing stuff against the wall, they're probably a failure sign. I mean, you got to look where the money is. The money's in
Yeah,
family offices right now. Family offices are up. The
yeah,
corporate investors
yeah,
are holding steady. Go to other sources. This is like sales 101. You
yeah,
got to go to other places where there's other
yeah,
opportunities to raise money. And sometimes, there's a thing called learned
yes.
helplessness, Guillaume, which basically means it was from a study done in the 70s. And I remember reading it a long time ago, just fascinating, that you could actually create this learned helplessness. They had a bell and they were doing some things. They had chickens, right? And the chickens would freeze.
Hmm.
They would completely freeze because they didn't want to do anything. And that's kind of like startups. They get to the point they sit on their hands and they're like
Yeah.
they don't know what to do. So their idea is don't do anything, and you think it's going to get better. But
Yeah,
that's not
and
really
I
the
was
way it
speaking
works,
to
is
one
it?
startup. No, no. I spoke to a startup yesterday, because we started 6 months ago, with some initial conversations, and I introduced them to an investor that might be interested in them. And at that time, they weren't generating any revenue yet, but they were very promising and were about to open up their first income stream or something like that. Fast forward 4 months, 5 months later, and they were still working on fine tuning whatever on the platform. And they was like, yeah, but it's the chicken and the egg problem. I'm like, you have a Ferrari in the garage
Oh, I love that.
and you're complaining about, like, yeah, it's like they're working on the side mirror just to get it done. And I'm like, so you have transportation to go from A to B, but you still want to tinker on the side mirror. Like, what are we doing, people? Like, so those are some of the things that I see happening a lot, where the founders on the one end want their product to be perfect before going to market, but at the same time they're missing out on even remotely testing or experimenting, if people are willing to pay for their product or their service.
Well, that's right. They haven't done their customer development. You bring up a good point. A lot of this is customer development to go out to market to see if they want it or
Yes,
not. And by the way, if you go out to those customers, depending on who they are, and they don't want it or don't like it for whatever reason, they're not going to do it again. The problem is you're going to burn the contacts. So make sure, so startups out there, make sure you got the right product at the right place, the right time, and do your research on it. Don't take it out too early, but bring it out and do your feedback. Check it out. Even if you got to mock up presentations using slides so you can talk to people what you're going to have and get their feedback. Because once you have that and you're pretty much assured that it's going to be able to go to market, that's going to change everything.
exactly, exactly. And that is one thing that people, yeah, I don't mean to generalize, but what I do see is that people tend to overcomplicate those sales setups,
Yeah,
where
I
it's
agree.
like, okay, but it's not ready yet. So we haven't done this yet. So I don't think we should. And when it comes to that, it's like, no, it's a you can make it as complicated as you want, but it doesn't have to be that complicated. And you can start very simple, if you know your customer. And that goes back to your point. If you know your customer, you can definitely start doing some experiments on what they would be willing to pay for.
No, I agree with you. Listen, we're coming to the top of the show. Closing thoughts, and how do people get a hold of you, Guillaume?
Well, closing thoughts, I would definitely say keep it simple, stupid.
And
And
I love these words. If we're in the
always,
garage, keep it simple, stupid. Man of my own heart.
yeah, and that's why we connect so well.
That's great.
Yeah, I would really say to every entrepreneur, try to keep it as simple as possible. And from that simplicity, you can go the distance. Try to get the right people around you, and learn. Be open to learn every day, because you can always learn something new. Uh, as it pertains to getting a hold of me, I'm on LinkedIn, just Guillaume Kloof, on LinkedIn. On the website validate.tech, and our mobile app for Android users. If they just go for Validate, they should be able to find us. And yeah, just Validate Tech anywhere, and you'll see a bunch of results.
Sounds great. Guillaume, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. As always, it's great to see you, my friend. And to all my audience out there, my name is Gary Fowler, and I'm the CEO, President, and co-founder of GSD Get You Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio. Stay tuned. We will be back next week with another exciting edition. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. And get back to you and see you soon. Thank you very much. Bye bye, Guillaume.